People sometimes ask what inspired me to write this book. Like many folks coming of age in the 1960s and 1970s, I had a few revelatory and existentially challenging experiences on drugs like LSD, peyote, MDA, and magic mushrooms. Psychedelics blew away what I once saw as reality, opening my mind to profound unitive experiences with the natural world and members of my tribe. I've been writing about and experiencing altered states of consciousness since the 1970s, first as a budding psychonaut, then as a religion reporter for daily newspapers in San Francisco, and more recently as the author of several books on psychedelic spirituality. My spiritual path and journalistic approach is that of a skeptical universalist. By that I mean someone who seeks to find truth in all of the world's religions, but one who's also on the lookout for the hypocrisy, divisiveness, and grandiosity that often seems to corrupt them all. In my new book, I look at how the so-called psychedelic renaissance relates to broader changes in our nation's religious and spiritual landscape. God on Psychedelics chronicles some intriguing characters and congregations that see sacred plant medicines and psychedelic drugs as powerful doorways to the divine. Some may call that God. Others are more comfortable with words like cosmic consciousness, the ground of being, or ultimate reality. Among those profiled in the book are an avant-garde band of rabbis, priests, and Protestant clergy who see psychedelics as a possible source of renewal for some Christians and Jews. Psychedelics are going mainstream, suddenly much faster than most of us had expected. They've escaped from the underground and the counterculture and are increasingly embraced by the academic community, medical establishment, big pharma, the media, and even politicians as something worth studying, employing as therapeutic tools, decriminalizing, and commodifying. In my view, these drugs have value far beyond their use as traditional medical and therapeutic tools. They are not just for people with a mental health diagnosis. It's no secret that psychedelics often inspire profound mystical experiences, even among people who previously considered themselves atheist or long ago fell away from organized religion. These plants, fungi, and chemical compounds have the power to deconstruct our preconceived ideas about the nature of reality and how we relate to ourselves and the world around us. Judaism and Christianity each have centuries-old mystical paths. But since the 1960s and in the current psychedelic revival, countless North American psychonauts have turned to Buddhism, Hinduism, or shamanism to understand their sudden connection to divine reality. In the beginning, I thought very little about how these mystical experiences of heaven and hell connected to the faith of my Protestant forefathers and Jewish grandmothers. Today, millions of us are turning away from the religious establishment. We may or may not still call ourselves Christians or Jews, but many of us are creating new kinds of community that employ such spiritual practices as meditation, contemplative prayer, and yes, even the ingestion of psychedelic drugs and sacred plant medicines to cultivate a divine presence in this lifetime.